In this video, I'm going to be talking about one of the most debated forms within the Bleach manga. Yes, I'm referring to Ichigo's Vasto Lorde transformation. So in this video, I'm going to be breaking down what led up to this incredible transformation, while also explaining the abilities that Ichigo gains in this new form, and going over each instance that we see Ichigo's Vasto Lorde form, including his battle against Ulquiorra, and when he goes into his inner world in order to learn the final Getsuga Tensho, and he encounters his inner hollow with Tensa Zangetsu, and we see that his inner hollow has taken the form of his Vasto Lorde transformation. So my aim with this video is to try to understand and interpret this mysterious form, this transformation that is only with us for a handful of chapters, but leaves us with such a lasting impression. Hopefully after this video you'll be able to understand Ichigo's hollow powers a bit better, as well as completely understanding what the Vasto Lorde transformation was. So without further delay, let's get into the topic of the video. This is my explanation of Ichigo's manifested hollow form, which is referred to as the Vasto Lorde form. Before diving into the topic of the video, I think it's important to go over the different forms of hollows so that we understand the terminology being used, especially when I refer to this form as the Vasto Lorde form, because I know a lot of people will have issue with me referring to this transformation by that name. In chapter 197, Hitsugaya explains to Ichigo everything that he needs to know about Arankars and hollows, as he states that an Arankar is formed when a hollow has torn off its mask. He gets Ichigo's attention when he explains that there are hollows that are more powerful than Menos. To clarify his statement, Hitsugaya states that there are three classes of Menos, which are the lowest level of Menos. There are countless of them and they look very similar, with the only difference being that they vary in height. He explains that when Menos Grande are referred to in Shinigami textbooks, it is the GILLIANS that are spoken of, and the Menos that Ichigo had fought before arriving to the Soul Society was indeed a GILLIAN. Ichigo is understandably surprised to learn that this indeed was the lowest class of Menos. The GILLIAN class of Menos are very large in size, which results in them being slow, and they typically have the intelligence of a wild animal, and in general, a captain ranked Shinigami could easily defeat a GILLIAN. The next class of Menos is referred to as the ADJUCHAS. They are of course smaller in size when compared to GILLIANs, and far fewer of them exist. With this level of Menos, you'll find that they are very highly intelligent and are much more dangerous. This second rank of Menos actually give orders to the GILLIANs. Now the final rank of Menos that we are concerned with and is the most relevant to this video are of course the Vasto Lorde. This is the highest class of Menos, and in comparison to regular hollows, they are far smaller in size, and they are typically the size of a human being. Only a very few of them exist within Hueco but Hitsugaya goes on to explain to Ichigo that Vasto Lorde are far more powerful than even captain ranked Shinigami, and you can only assume that they are even more intelligent than the ADJUCHAS, which were referred to as being highly intelligent anyway. So from chapter 197, it is made evident that Ichigo knows exactly what a Vasto Lorde is, and that's why it's not entirely correct to refer to Ichigo's transformation as the Vasto Lorde transformation, because it is actually a manifested form of his true Zanpakuto spirit Zangetsu, or in other words, Hollow Ichigo, thus explaining the contradiction between Hitsugaya's explanation and the transformation that Ichigo undergoes. Hitsugaya had stated that Vasto Lorde are actually intelligent. This is contrasted against Ichigo's transformation, where his behavior is best described as a mindless beast. After having read the 1000-Year Blood War arc, we know at this time Old Man Zangetsu was suppressing Ichigo's Shinigami powers, so with his inner hollow actually being his true Zanpakuto spirit, whenever Ichigo had tried to call upon his Zanpakuto in order to give him power, it was in fact his inner hollow that would respond to him. And because his Shinigami powers were being suppressed, the powers that Ichigo had begun to awaken and were being utilized were in fact hollow powers, because his Zanpakuto spirit has this duality of being a hollow and a Shinigami, and when one side is being suppressed, the other was allowed to flourish, thus explaining the sporadic manifestations of Ichigo's hollow mask during his battles against Byakuya Uyami and even Grimmjow. That is until he learns to control his hollow mask thanks to the help of the Vizards. This of course leads to the famous speech about the King and the Horse, and at the end of chapter 221 we get the iconic foreshadowing from Hollow Ichigo, as he warns him that as soon as Ichigo demonstrates any weakness, then he will not hesitate to take over and destroy him. And this is precisely what happens in chapter 350. After Ulquiorra fires a Cerro Oscuras pass through Ichigo's chest, he is understandably left with a gaping hole through his chest, and Orihime is unable to heal him. Orihime then begins to panic and begs for Ichigo to help her, and it is assumed that at this moment Ichigo's inner hollow or his Zanpakuto spirit had taken over, thus resulting in this newly manifested hollow form. From the 1000-year Blood War arc, we are aware that every time Ichigo was close to death, it was his inner hollow that had manifested to protect him, so it is understandable to assume that this had also occurred here. Now, before this transformation, Ichigo says the iconic lines, "I will protect you, I will save you," and most people assume that this is Ichigo saying this to Orihime, but in actual fact, what if this was Ichigo's inner hollow saying this to him, Zangetsu telling Ichigo that he will protect him and he will save him? It is a fascinating possibility that is very easy to make, especially after you learn the truth about Oman Zangetsu and Ichigo's inner hollow. So this hollow form that Ichigo transforms into has long straight hair, which flows all the way down to his waist. He also has a small hollow hole through his chest. This hole has several markings which spread out from it and go over his chest and onto his face. The most striking feature of this hollow form is the different hollow mask that it manifests, as it covers the entirety of Ichigo's head, and it is decorated by a pair of menacing horns. In this new hollow form, Ichigo has several new abilities, which include an enhanced Sero. It is a red-colored Sero which is far more powerful than Ukyora's Sero Oscuras, and it is easily able to cause large-scale destruction, and the only way to stop a Sero from this hollow form is to break off one of its horns. Now, another incredible feat which is demonstrated within chapter 350 is the immense strength that Ichigo's new hollow form has. He is able to destroy a large portion of the roof of Las Noches with just the swing of a blade. He easily tore off Ukyora's left arm, and he was able to crush one of Ukyora's most powerful attacks, the Lanza del Relampago. He also demonstrates several abilities which are commonly found within Arancars, which include the Sonido and high-speed regeneration. So after Ichigo transforms into this hollow form, he easily wipes the floor with Ukiora. While transformed, he shows little to no mercy, even having difficulty to differentiate between friend or foe, as he ends up attacking Uryu, and before he can fire a Sero in Uryu's direction, Ukiora severs one of the horns, which results in the Sero dispersing. The large-scale explosion ends up shattering Ichigo's mask, and he falls to the ground, and thus undoing this transformation and leaving Ichigo permanently scarred and afraid of his hollow form. This is after he realizes all of the damage that he had caused after he had transformed, in particular feeling guilt that he had defeated Ukiora in an unfair manner, and after he realizes that he had hurt Uryu. Ichigo actually encounters this new hollow form that he had transformed into in chapter 410. This is after Tensa Zangetsu pulls out the source of Ichigo's despair, which ends up being his inner hollow, but this time his inner hollow is wearing a mask identical to the one that Ichigo had manifested during his battle against Ukiora after he had transformed. After his inner hollow removes this horned mask, he confirms his identity, and this also further confirms to us that it was his inner hollow that had taken over his body during his battle against Ukiora, and it is this lack of control that Ichigo is fearful of. Of course, we know that Tensa Zangetsu merges with his inner hollow and ends up fighting Ichigo, refusing to teach him the final Getsuga Tensho. I've always described Ichigo's transformation into this hollow form as a manifestation of primal instinct. It is only after Ichigo loses consciousness that we see his hollow take over, and the result of this is pure instinctive survival. This form demonstrates behavior akin to a beast more than a human. The way that he ends up taking down Ukiora is like a predator pouncing on its prey, and actually thinking about it, this hollow form actually behaved and resembled a predator who lives entirely on instinct. We know that instinct plays a huge part for the motif of Hollow Ichigo, and it is the central message that is conveyed through the speech of the king and the horse. When Ichigo demonstrated weakness, his inner hollow had taken over, and the result of that takeover had been foreshadowed when his inner hollow had yelled out the word instinct in chapter 220. Another way to interpret this transformation is to draw similarity to it with tribal warriors. During this transformation, we got to witness a form which demonstrated excellent composure, a being that acts without thinking, a fighter with great reflexes, and possessing incredible characteristics like strength and agility. It is hard not to imagine a tribal warrior when I look at this form, from the ripped, tattered clothing, while also being barefooted and wielding a weapon in hand. In addition to this, you have the markings on this hollow form, which resemble the tribal markings that a tribal warrior would have. And in addition to this, the mask that Ichigo is seen to be wearing in this form resembles a skull, similar to the horned skull of animals that tribal warriors would all too often wear on their heads as helmets. Whether if you're comparing this hollowified form of Ichigo to a personification of instinct or to a tribal warrior, one thing is for certain: this transformation is incredibly frightening. The best way that I can describe the emotions that I feel when I look at this form is with the words cold and lifeless. Through that mask, you can see no eyes. There is no skin on the face. It is simply a menacing skulled mask. And of course, when you look at a skull, the first thing that you think about is a dead body. So I think it's fitting to describe this hollow form as an undead being. I stated at the start of this video that this transformation left a lasting impression on all of us, and it was even captivating enough to have a movie centered around it, as Bleach Movie 4 relied heavily on Ichigo's transformation into this hollow form. So I hope that through this video you were able to understand this transformation a bit better, that a lot of people feel like came out of nowhere. In my opinion, this transformation was foreshadowed excellently by Kubo, and if you want to know more about Ichigo's hollow powers, then I suggest that you check out my character analysis of Hollow Ichigo, and my video where I explain all of the variations in Ichigo's hollow mask. So I'm going to wrap up my explanation of this form here. Now I want to hear what all of you thought about this form. Did you learn anything new from this video? Or did I fail to mention a specific piece of information that is relevant to this form? I would love to read all of your comments, so definitely continue the discussion down below. And lastly, thank you for making it to the end of this video, and I can't wait to see you in my next Bleach Explained video. If you enjoyed this video and would like to see more like it, then please consider supporting my channel on Patreon. I have multiple tiers with rewards including access to an exclusive Discord server, video scripts, as well as being the first to know about unreleased upcoming videos. Thank you for your time, and whatever you choose to contribute I will appreciate, and it will mean a lot to me.